Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another Quickview. This is a Quickview that we've kind of done before. It's more silicone. And these are relatively recently out of the package. It's a little round here. We got a little modern art shape. We're testing Class 1 Injora silicones. For frame of reference, there is a non-Class 1. They do appear to be mostly the same thing, but I would like to draw your attention to on the Class 2s. See the ribbing has a very rounded. This is like a capsule shape, like a pill shape. These are just squared off. They don't have that rounding. Injora currently has the Class 1 sized insert in green, which is the soft, and blue, which is the medium. We will be testing the green soft, which compared to this green is even softer. I want to say that they're claiming the same weight range, but these are very soft. The blues seem to be a little more oriented towards something that has a, like, say, for instance, a hard body, something heavier. But these are definitely in that, like, built for 5-pound stuff and under. These are remarkably soft. What I have done to exhibit that is here is one mounted, and I want you to pay close attention to how squared the shoulder is. This is mounted with a green inside. It's a very good feel. We've got that lateral, and not a lot. There's a tiny little bit of bag. We have a little bit of space in it. Very similar to like when you're running a 3D printed. And then this is an insert that is still running the included foam. There's a very different profile, a little more domed in the middle. I think that this is going to bite more. I think we're going to get more bite out of this. The feel is very, very close at that very first tip in. They're remarkably close. Perhaps the tiniest bit stiffer on the green. And that is because an open cell foam is completely linear. It's the same amount of force to compress it all the way. Whereas these, you're going through stages, so it's easy, and then it gets a little harder, and then it gets a little harder still. So they're more progressive. So what I would like to do before I unmount them, because I'm curious as to this myself. So the tusk mounted on its included foam is 106 by 41. That seems to track with what we got during the Quickview. Fitted with the Injora is 106. About 39. Where does it go? I don't know. I don't know how one dimension changes independently of the other. And then another curiosity that we need to satisfy. So, foam, 140 with the Injora. Could be Injora, could be any of the number of Amazon 105 clones. So, alloy wheel, 140, tire, foam, rim, 184. So we're picking up about, memory serves, I think I have one. I think I've got one. 7 grams, 51. So yeah, 40. There it is. There's that 44 grams. So about 44 grams up going to the insert. I guess it's proportionate to the 70 grams-ish that we pick up when going to these. The Class 2 is about a 70-gram increase. Let me get this tire pulled off, because honestly, it's bad enough that I force you to endure watching me put them all back together. Very easy to install, up there with 3D printed inserts, a good fitting 3D printed insert. These are appropriately soft, and by that I mean excessively soft, because I feel like the group of folks, they're out there, sure. I'm running, these tires were borrowed from the in-house Trail Runner, which is not heavy. So that is an instance of a Class 1 vehicle that is particularly lightweight. While I understand that most times, when I say Class 1, You say Class 1. When we say Class 1, I think hard body. So I don't know how I don't know how big the customer base is for these Class 1 greens, other than the runners, the element runners. I'm trying to think. Oh well, I've got a SCA1E. Yeah, probably SCA1E from Charisma. Not maybe there, but I think the blue is going to have a much broader range of applicability. These are J Concepts green, of course. We're putting greens in the greens, and J Concepts green is, if not bubble juice mandatory, then at least bubble juice highly recommended, because even these having been previously mounted, they've been mounted before, all the tire wants to do is stick to the wheel. You tend not to have problems with bead popping out. It's just that they're so adhesive that getting them mounted to the rim is always a little bit more of a chore than anything else. I tend to do my bead locks in groups and or clusters. I'll mount 4 or 5 sets at once, and or dismount 4 or 5 sets so that I can mount up 4 or 5 new sets. And when you're mounting a bunch of tires in that close of proximity to one another, you really develop an appreciation for how easy some are relative to how difficult some others are. And J Concepts green is kind of in this perfect middle place where they're not remarkably difficult to mount. They mount well, but the compound is very soft and very sticky. So there's a little bit of fussing and fighting. And as you may know and or remember, we had to leave body off so we can see the current state of affairs. Still got that really clean gearbox going. Until someone better comes along, and that's going to be a tough get. Baseline tests every tire Class 2 and below. So if it is a 475 all the way down to a 393 or a 385, he's the guy. We've got some gaps in the testing fleet. We've got some guys. We've got sort of a tag team group for testing Class 3s and above, for testing things like 2.2s and 2.2 LPs. That's no problem. 5-inch tires, ruptures, 1.9 ruptures. We've got all that covered. We have kind of a gap in the Class 1 area, and we've got just a complete gap in proper Class 1, which would be Class 1 with the hard body. We need somebody in the fleet. We've got to get somebody put together to test 393s and 419s, because we're doing more testing of tires in that size. I'm starting to embrace the small. These tires did enormously. They did remarkably well in their Quickview test, so I'm anxious to see them tested on these, because we're doing more than one thing here. It is a canyon standard, is how we operate. Why make one change when you can make 3? If it sticks together, it's all technically one nacho. So the introduction of the Class 1 sized Injora silicones is what I hope can be the testing protocol standard moving forward. Basically, in today's test, it's not so much that we're testing the Injora silicones for how good they are. I believe that the performance is going to be in the same realm as the Class 2 size. What I want to see is they don't need to make the tusks better for this to be a success. They just need to make the tusks feel the same. I just want these to feel in normal operation, side hilling separate. I want these to feel like single stage open cell foams, which is the most forward drive you can get. So if we don't witness a drop off in forward drive, this will be an outright success, and moving forward will allow us here in the Canyon to test Class 1 tires, 4.19 tires, on either the green set or the blue set of Injora silicone inserts, because They are inexpensive, and they are not a one-size-fits-all, but what I would call a one-size-fits-most. We have successfully adopted the Class 2s into fitting a wide array of tires. Obviously, they are a perfect fit for the Injora tires like the comp pin. These have cut blues. These have cut blues in them, and the fitment is tremendous. The performance is definitely up there, not quite to a bespoke 3D printed insert, but very good. And the availability. You don't have to find a maker that will get you a 3D printed insert to match the weight of your vehicle and the outfit of your vehicle. You can just buy these off the shelf, and if they're a little too stiff, you cut a little bit of silicone out. If they're way too stiff, you buy the green ones. If they're not stiff enough, and for some reason your vehicle weighs more than a regulation bowling ball, they make an insert for that as well. But, you know, we're looking for that one-size-fits-most here. We're not looking for the absolute maximum magic of forward drive and side hill ability. For that, you're going to need to get a bespoke insert. So, I think that the disclaimer has run on long enough. We were going to get a battery in him. We'll get his body outfitted. He'll go out this dirty. He likes to be dirty. And we will test these in a loosely Canyon Tire Test protocol fashion, not as strict as the protocol, because I kind of know what I'm looking for, and I'm hoping that my brain will work well enough today to point out to you what I'm looking for. A couple of things occurred to me in the transition from there to here, or from there to here, which is, for full context, you probably will have watched the Class 1 Tusk Quickview to see the performance there, which would answer a question that I think the viewing of that would raise within you, that being, why do you want to test the insert on a very capable tire, which this is? I also apologize for the hose in the background. I'm doing concrete right now, and I am too tired to keep moving the hose around. So, a good insert can make a good tire better, but there is no such thing as an insert that can make a bad tire good. So if you have a tire that is of middling performance, you're never really going to emerge much past that level of middling performance. So we want to start with a tire of a known capability. And as is part of that, I'm trying to phrase this correctly. The maximum amount of forward drive, with very few exceptions, is going to be had through a single stage open cell foam insert. They will have a maximum amount of compliance, and they will trade all other aspects for forward drive. Directionality and positionability is not going to be as good because they compress the exact same amount from the sidewall as they do on the center tread. So they will collapse in spots that you don't want them to collapse in exchange for their ability to pull up over obstacles that other insert combinations will not. A dual stage insert is going to be superior in a lot of situations, but in forward drive it is not going to be the best. This is a silicone insert, which is something I would put it in between a dual stage insert that would have a closed cell inner and an open cell outer, and a 3D printed insert, which is mimicking the behavior of a closed cell inner and open cell outer. These are somewhere in between those two. You get a good amount of compliance because the silicones are a triple stage, and your directionality will be very good because the silicone is less compressible laterally than it is vertically. But it is not like many of the 3D printed inserts that, in the way they are constructed, they are incompressible laterally. These will not be incompressible laterally. They will have a slight amount of give to them. I just talked about it and kind of forgot about the hose myself. We can't class one over that hose. So, like that right there. We're depending a lot on the door panel to hold us up right there, but you can see the front. We can get some good motion out of that front tire. So I don't expect an amount of forward drive on par with a single stage open cell. It's just not going to happen. What I'm looking for is the sliders to be moved around because, again, with very few exception, that single stage open cell is going to prioritize forward drive over all and sacrifice a lot in other situations. The Class 1 Tusk, due to having the shorter sidewall, is really capable in a lot of situations, but can we improve the weaknesses without drawing down the strengths too much? That's what we're looking for here. I think, and also, it would be an unforgivable omission if we weren't to mention that the grand overarching weaknesses of open cell foam are water. They really don't like it, and they do wear down. They don't just soften in terms of breaking down, but you will get a dust out of the inside of your tire if you've been running open cell foam for a long period of time. Silicones will wear in, they will get softer, it will kind of soften as their structure kind of softens up, but they're not going to break down. They're going to remain the same. And water, they're silicone rubber, they don't care at all. So in that aspect, if we're looking at that imaginary checkbox, the silicone already has an advantage over open cell foam there. So in pure forward drive, I wanted to see right here, where we make this ascent, I wanted to see, like right there, there's a moment of hesitation when we hit the first wall, and there's a moment of hesitation as we pull up over the beam. We can get to a little spot right about here. Oh no, that looked really good. Yeah, a little bit right there, and then we give it a little attitude, and it's right over. It's an excellent tire, and this is a pretty good fit for the insert. We need to see things like positionability, side hilling, etc. But, I mean, once again, I scored this one, the Class 1, just above the Class 2 Tusk. And honestly, maybe it's something about Class 1. I think I would do the very same for the Injora Silicone. Would you like to know the answer to a question that you've perhaps never asked, which is, why do content creators use things like iPhones as their filming source? Well, let me tell you why. Lighting conditions, you see the rocks at the top right compared to the rocks at the bottom left. There's a lot of work that has to go in the post-production process to get this to look reasonably okay. But I consider the cameras, the stuff that you're seeing through right now, every bit as much a part of this as wheeling the rigs and everything else. I love that stuff. Ooh, that back tire we're getting a full crawler back there. And maybe it's a little more. Trying to bring it up. Not too much throttle, but a little bit more. I don't think we're mechanical in. Oh. It's just not there. Is it not there? I don't want to go far left. I want to stay inside that white rock on the left. There it is. Again, the silicones will wear in a little bit. They'll accommodate themselves to the inside of the tire. We'll get a better pairing. Whereas with most inserts, when they first go in the tire, that's about what you're going to get. If you're switching to silicones after previously only using foam, dual stage foam, some kind of foam, these will improve over time. Really good compliance on these greens. Again, baseline is in the low fives. I want to say he's around 5.4 pounds. The greens feel very nearly perfect. Very nearly perfect. I think the greens are probably going to start to suffer a 6 pounds, 6.25, and you would want to go to the blues. If you have a hard body on your Class 1, you're going to want to go to the blues 100% because their feel, when you give them squeezins, they feel almost exactly like the Class 2 blues, which are good. up to, what do they say, 4 kilos, 8.8? I find them to be kind of optimized in and around 7.5 pounds. Like a stock, a Vanquish Phoenix on the blues is pretty much perfect. Uncut blues, slap them in the tire, they feel really good. They'll soften a little bit over time. You'll get a little bit of that bag out in the front. Now see right here, ooh, yeah, delicious. That was an improvement over the open cell because it's compressing less. If you just squish them with your meaty bits, your appendages, you will feel that these feel a little firmer, and that's because, as I mentioned earlier, there's a progressive nature to them. Each little row of cells requires a certain amount of force to compress it, whereas foam is foam. So we will have sacrificed a very small amount of forward drive. But in that sacrifice, we exchange it for the ability to do other stuff better. Like the rough ground handling, despite the fact that you'll get a little bit more body movement, will actually be better because, so compliance will be down a little. High speed compliance will be down. And we've picked up a little bit of unsprung weight relative to the foam, so that's an improvement. I'm kind of running a little unofficial mini checklist in my head, and I will forget many of the things that are on it. Now, if I see nothing else in today's escapade, let it be some remarkable side hilling. That's what I want to see above all else. We've got the transfer. We're not over collapsing on driver rear. We're not collapsing at all on driver rear. It feels really good. We're gonna see. We've got to get into yellows where the weight is really going to try to transfer. Let's see right here. I like to go in it on the most unforgiving line that I can think of. I want to get that front tire up in the air, and I want to just stay in the throttle, and I want to see where the transfer goes. Is it going to compress too much? If you make it on the first try, the line's too easy. I know, we know, they know, she know, out of Reno. We know where to go to make this work. We turn in, we get a little bit of the slip, we come up across this top, and then we want to see if we can get the pumpkin to clear. Side hilling, particularly there where we go to as steep of a side hill as I think anyone would encounter. This whole section, the least steep portion of the side hill here at Undertaker is 45 degrees. We're usually more in around a 50-degree area. So if a tire and or insert, what I need to do is I need to come in lower. If I can get, I need to, all right. Let me tell you what the problem is. We have an excellent tire, and it's doing well with this insert, and I'll tell you what the problem is. I call this an area of grip and slip, in which we're relying a little bit, except in, again, like the Panther Cougars, they don't need to slip. That foam is otherworldly. We're relying on a little bit of slip. What I'm trying to do right here is I'm trying to get the driver rear to just slide a little. Like right there, so I can get it a little lower. And the problem we're having now, it doesn't want to. There we go. There's so much grip, just so much raw grip, that I couldn't get the rear end to slide at all. Really makes me curious as to what this would look, what this would look like in a scenario that almost certainly doesn't exist. I'm sure it's out there, but not in great number, and that would be a Class 1 rig with dig, Class 1 dig rig, because dig would be very interesting on this setup, as in some setups it's difficult to get the rear end to slide enough for the front end to pull it around. I don't know if the front end would be able to pull the rear end around at all. It would be like taking a big anchor and just throwing it out of the back of the truck. So it's too much grip, too much lateral grip. Well, let's you know what? Let's not guess. Let's know. I need to get up onto this obstacle before anything else happens, and my brain is still not geared into Class 1. So a little rough terrain stuff here. Pull that over. Oh yeah, there. Okay, I don't know what to. I don't know how to classify it. Nope, that's bumpered in. There's so much drive from the rear end, like an alarming amount of rear drive. Almost to the point, let's see right here. Almost to the point where it feels like at times the rear end is out driving the front. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, the green, the Class 1, just Class 1 things. The greens might be slightly over compressing in the rear. I'm just throwing this poor guy. Baseline is having a day today. It's when, okay, all I want, it's a simple ask. This is all I want in life. I just want a Class 2 tire with this amount of sidewall composure, let's phrase it as, but give me back the Class 2 ground clearance. But I want all of the benefits of the Class 1 tire. That's all I want. I just want something impossible. This combo, so you take a Class 1 Tusk and you put the Injora silicone in it. The only thing that can hold these back is mechanical interference. Look at this pivot. Look at this pivot. How far will we slide? No, we'll pull it back. Not enough. It didn't pull it back enough because, again, I think right in that situation right there, I think the rear was out driving the front. I think we had push instituted. This might be a blue-green. We might need blues in the rear to actually take a little bit of the traction out of the rear. This is a situation that is not, this is uncommon to actually introduce that much drive into the rear without the typically associated drawbacks, which is the over collapse on climbs. It's not over collapsing at all. It's ordinarily we say pulling. This is pushing. It's driving so hard from the rear wheels. Is this another instance where I'm trying to make you spend your hard-earned money that maybe you need to buy both? You can't make the greens hard. No, you can't make the greens stiffer, but you can make the blues softer. So I would say buy the blues. If you're 5 pounds, just buy the greens. If you're 5 pounds or less, just buy the greens. Now, I understand again. Class 1s that are sub 5 pounds, that's probably not a huge number. But with that said, I do have that. I have an Element Trail Runner, which is going to get very quite likely. We're in the midst. I love to institute temporality into a video, so we will tell you about things that you have seen and that you haven't seen and that hopefully you will see in the future. Most likely, Class 1 Tusks with these green inserts, there's that push. That push was noticeable right there. So much drive from the rear. The Trail Runner in stock configuration is as light, if not lighter, than what we have here. It has 0 grams of added weight, and it will very quite most likely be fitted with these Tusks with these exact inserts. Getting Class 1 again. Yeah. Be aware. If your rig does not have... How did he not knock that that white ball off it too? If your rig does not have a, I don't want to go so far as to say surplus, but if it doesn't have a lot of steering, these are going to make it worse because they're grabbing so hard. Yeah, we'll just reset down and we'll pop through 4. We'll go through some wet crabgrass. Oh, they're nice, and tires are nice and loaded up now. These just, he's leaving mud streaks on the ground as he drives. But he would not rock a phenomenally high score here because back 9 is a bit of a class 2, perhaps class 3 course. You're far better off with dig and or 4-wheel steer, one or the other, and a class 2 tire, because we're getting into some real chop right here. But I don't know. I'm not turning into a class 1 guy, but these are alarmingly capable. Can we pull through there and not knock that low side off? Yeah. Really good. I mean, I'm starting to get it. So we'll end on something akin to a summarization. Don't be alarmed. We've done things like this before, which is, this is strong. This is a strong combo. I think that silicone is not the future. What it is a suitable, acceptable, and, at least in this instance, recommended substitute for dual stage. And by that I mean closed cell inner, open cell outers, right? It is not as good as a bespoke 3D printed insert. Ooh, I thought he had a chance. But what they are is a la carte. And above and beyond the availability is the kind of semi. So what's a term for semi universality? I can remove these from this vehicle and place them in another vehicle and they'll work pretty good. There are many instances where if you take a 3D printed insert out of one tire, it's just not going to fit in another one. And if you take that tire combo or this exact tire combo and put it, oh, that was really, really, really good, and put it on another vehicle, if the vehicle's weight is just a couple ounces one way or the other, all of a sudden it is now sub-optimized again. So 3D inserts are the future, in my opinion, because they can be tailored to each individual tire on each individual vehicle. That is how you get maximum performance. But these are $20. And these will work just as good on this as if I move them to a trail runner, as if I move them to some other class 1. Any vehicle, I could take these and put them on my van, the Vanimal, a Charisma, SCA1E, Prairie Wolf, and they would be every bit as good. So that is the strength of silicone. That and the ability to, oh, is it wet today? Doesn't matter. Don't have to worry about them breaking down. I would have to assume that if temperature changed, that's drive. Yeah, remember when I said about the rear drive just being excessive relative to the front? Yeah, it's so strange. When that weight transfers to the rear, so we get the belly off of the, and then it just goes. That's a sticky business right there. Tusk plus Injora silicone greens on your 5 to 6 pound class 1 rig, which I know is a small number. We are working towards getting a proper class 1 test rig built up. We're accumulating the stuff for it so that we can have a genuine, porky, hard-bodied fella to test class 1s and class 1 inserts with. We will arrive there at some point in the future. But that is the future. And in between now and then, ooh, segue. I invite you one and all to do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. I thank you so much for joining us here in the canyon. I feel as good about the class 1 Injora silicones as I did about the class 2s. Probably actually a little better because class 1s are much more uniform in size in terms of width. So this insert will fit a lot more tires. You're not going to have to shim them. You're not going to have to futz. You're going to pop them off your bead locks. You're going to take the foams out. You're going to pop these in, and you're going to go. These were remarkably good. Do I think that they improved the already very high-scoring Tusk? Maybe. Maybe. I think the traction moved around in a satisfactory way. I think now we can drive in the rain. I think we don't have to worry about them breaking down. I think we did all right. And if you think we all did all right or not, put that down in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And thank you for joining us here in the canyon today. Baseline is going to go change shoes because he's got to do this a couple more times. So see you next time, everybody.